Hello guys, sorry for not making any videos for a few days. I was like busy helping out my parents with moving. More specifically, preparing to like go to a New Year's party at my father's parents' place or my grandma's place. To say the least, I'm kind of tired. But to say the least, I wanted to make an update, more specifically to some video ideas that I recently had. So, it seems that everybody decided to go for option 2, but for now, it's currently a tie for option 1 or 3 for the second What If, or, video series. And as for the last post, so everybody wants to see somebody with gain the powers of the 4 ruinous powers from Warhammer 40k in DxD. Honestly, it's a pretty cool idea at first, since at the time when it was back in my Wattpad days, I was maybe planning to make the sort of fanfic. Imagine this: a kid that was reborn into DxD and was turned into a devil thanks to the help of Ravel, aka the sister to Riser Phoenix, which, by the way, to say the least, I honestly feel bad for Riser, since at the time I think, at the time I thought, oh, maybe he wasn't all that bad, considering everything, and especially with some fanfics depicting him as actually a pretty cool guy. Especially one fanfic which I can't remember the name of that showed that he actually was a good guy, and it's mostly just Issei's fucking fault, and also honestly just Rias just being a spoiled brat. And also finally for 8 months ago, when I told you guys, if you want to see like a what if about Izuku being in Genshin Impact with the ability to summon monsters from Yu-Gi-Oh! To say the least, I'm sorry for not making that for a while, but I am maybe planning to make that maybe after, well, what if Izuku was in, Genshin Impact as the son of both Bayonetta and Dante. And if you're wondering, I may be planning to add in maybe rush duels. And if you're asking why rush duels, because, well, I recently started getting into Duel Links and stuff. Oh god, especially with I recently started playing a deck based off like Yuya's deck in I meant Yuga from Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, which I recently started watching, and it's absolutely fucking hilarious. And also pretty interesting with some of the designs of the monsters. Still though, I still despise that one girl, I can't remember the name, but she was one of the Goha children. Specifically her deck, which is basically just Utopia if he was a baseball player, which, to say the least, I absolutely hate. Because, my god, they basically made Utopia into that. I like the idea that his, the baseballs are like the overlay units, or at least used to be overlay units, but at the same time, it makes me feel angry that they decided, yep, we're gonna throw everything out and basically replace it with just making him just a normal monster. Not really a normal monster, but an effect monster. So, continuing on, I'm also started getting a little bit new ideas as well. I recently got an idea for like a what if. In this case, it was just an idea that I gotten a few days ago. Recently, I started getting into 30-minute missions. Well, not into making the model kits, because, well, I can't even find a store that actually sells the stuff. Besides maybe in one of the big cities here in the Philippines, which, by the way, is probably going to be far away, and I won't be able to buy it because inflation and bullshit. So yeah, so I recently started getting ideas for that, and yeah, that spiraled out of control to the point that they basically started thinking, what if somebody from, or at least an OC, uh, gets reincarnated into maybe like I re I've been switching to maybe like either the Naruto world or the Genshin or you know, either Genshin or Warhammer. Specifically, what if somebody gains the ability to make model kits, like for example from Gundam to actual Warhammer to Trench Crusade or something like that, and bring them to life. It's basically like a system similar to that. But at the same time, I thought to myself, that seems like a bad idea because, well, at the time, I'm still, pretty much like busy with like school and stuff. In this case, college. Another idea I recently gotten is maybe like a buddy fight. If you don't know what buddy fight is basically like the typical what do you call it? Yeah, trading card game like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff. But the mechanics are a bit interesting to say the least. One of them in the anime is basically like equip cards, or in this case, what they call equip cards. I can't remember the exact name, but basically the characters, or at least like the duelist, quote unquote, or buddy fighters, would actually join in the fight, where they basically use weapons known as equip cards, or at least I think that they're called, or yeah, I remember now. They're called item cards, and basically fight with their monsters. And because they're called buddy fight, there's a thing known as the buddy system or whatever it's called, where we have one monster acting as the sort of pseudo boss or ace monster of the deck. And I absolutely loved the idea, especially back when I was a kid, when it was like maybe 8 or 9. I remember watching it on Nickelodeon and I absolutely loved it. I especially loved the idea of Drum Dragon, or I think it was named that. I can't remember, but in the first series, he's basically like the pseudo he's kind of like the dark magician of the series, or at least sort of. And and I sort of like got the idea for maybe making like a sort of new world, or more specifically, making a sort of like world based off Yu-Gi-Oh for that series. And if you're wondering, what do you mean world? Well, world, or at least worlds in wait for a second, in body fight are essentially like the decks that you can use. There's Dragon World, Darkness Dragon World, Hero World, and several other worlds in that series. When I recently gotten back into buddy fight, I recently learned of new worlds, like for example, if I remember, Dungeon World, which honestly I forgot about and rediscovered, and Lost World, which to say the least is one of the most craziest things ever. Especially with the idea of for every time when you grab onto a card, you slowly get closer to like changing the world into Lost World. Essentially, Lost World works like this: you use another world to act as like I guess you say the start of the deck. Then, after slowly drawing every single card, when you get the black card, which is that of the Lost World card, you basically change the flag, basically covering the flag with Lost World. So I maybe plan on maybe making a deck based off Yu-Gi-Oh, which I'm gonna be calling Dual World, I guess. And the idea is basically like, instead of the typical buddy fight format, which is just 3 sections for sending in monsters, instead it's gonna be 5 sections, like in typical Yu-Gi-Oh. But instead, we also add in like the idea of the summoning types, which are Synchro, Xyz, Pendulum, Fusion, Link, and Tribute. The idea I currently have is maybe like using the idea of critical, which is basically just like the damage thing, or at least like um, the value that you use to damage the opponent and some monsters. So, like for example, let's just say if I'm using if I want to summon a synchro monster for that for that series, you need to use. It's basically like how you do it in like regular Yu-Gi-Oh, where you need to have a tuner monster and a non-tuner monster, but instead you use the values instead of like using levels. We use you know the critical instead, and it's also kind of the same for like for I think maybe yeah for um yeah for Xyz. Another one maybe for like for I guess maybe fusion. Maybe instead of like I guess instead of like using the typical like idea for it where you made the use of fusion card, we use a special mechanic in the game, or at least the flag, which allows it to, or at least the world flag for it, that it acts as like a continuous spell, kind of. Another one maybe something like that, for like, oh yeah, I almost forgot ritual. Instead of like ritual meeting a ritual spell, it's also in the flag as well. So you just need to like tribute like or at least like send cards to the gauge uh, to basically summon out the ritual monster. So yeah, that's some of the ideas that I had for like maybe future series. So if you want, you can vote on it in the comments. So yeah, so I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time, ladies and gents. Bye bye.